It's been almost a week since the Black Ops 7 Zombies beta has wrapped up, and I thought this would be a great time to talk about the beta itself and why I personally believe the beta was kind of pointless. Now, overall, I do think it was a pretty cool experiment for Call of Duty to do because we've never seen zombies in a beta before. This was a first. And it was very, very huge because I never expected this to happen. And to be honest, I never wanted it to happen. I always talked about zombies betas in the past and said I would never like that idea because I think the launch day for Call of Duty Zombies is very special. Getting to jump into the new maps, seeing what they're like, seeing what the mechanics are like, it is a very special experience. And I do think that a zombies beta could hurt that experience, but Black Ops 7 was in an interesting position where the zombies mode itself has these survival maps where it's not going to play anything like the full main map itself, so it made sense to allow us to play just the survival experience in the beta. And also Black Ops 7 is so similar to Black Ops 6 to the point where it's not like we're jumping into a completely new game. It still feels very familiar, so I don't think we're losing that much of that launch experience, and it also lets people try out zombies in the beta, which I feel like this game kind of needed, especially because there was not a lot of hype for the multiplayer to begin with, so it makes sense that they would try to bring in people into the beta in as many ways as possible, and adding zombies to that was a pretty good way to do that. Doing a zombies beta is also a great way to fix some of the bugs and just overall make the server stability work better. I mean, that's part of the reason the multiplayer beta exists in the first place, is so they can test all of this stuff out before launch day, so they're going to make sure there's as much server stability as possible. But regardless of this, I can't help but feel like the way they handled the zombies beta in Black Ops 7 wasn't that good. I don't think they did nearly enough to warrant there being a zombies beta, and if they do a zombies beta again in the future, I think they need to really change how they go about it. First of all, let's talk about the three main purposes of a beta in general, whether it's for multiplayer or any other game out there. The first purpose is something we already talked about, and that of course is stability. Just making sure they can patch up as many bugs as possible, making sure the servers can handle all of the people playing the game, so when the launch day comes, they can make as good of an experience as possible. The second purpose would be overall gameplay feedback, so it has nothing to do with bugs and stability, it's more so about the actual gameplay itself. And this could be stuff they test with their experiments and such and try to get certain stats out of what players are using more than anything, like what guns they're using, what perks they're using more often. But also this could be feedback from the fans online. And of course, I love to make videos giving feedback, and Treyarch themselves have been asking for feedback on Twitter, so they want us to give them the feedback about these gameplay systems. And that's one of the reasons I love the multiplayer beta. I think the multiplayer beta does a great job with this, and we already can see in Black Ops 7, they've already done a lot of things that have been a direct result of community feedback. And the last purpose is just for the overall advertising side of things, where the beta is trying to show players what the game is all about and trying to get people to buy it. Of course, the first part of the beta, you had to actually pre-order or get a code somewhere to play, but the second half of it was an open beta, so anyone could have tried the game out, and of course, they're going to try to make the game look as good as possible, so people are more likely to buy the full game. And when it comes to the Black Ops 7 Zombies beta, I really only think it was able to fulfill that first purpose, the idea of it being able to help with certain bugs and glitches and just making the overall server stability as good as possible. And there was quite a few things that were brought up by the community, and I'm sure they're going to patch it for the launch of the game. But even then, the full game is going to have way more bugs and way more problems that'll come up because obviously we don't have access to everything in the beta. There's going to be a full Ashes of the Damned experience to play. We're going to get the one weapon. We're going to have this whole Easter egg, a bunch of side quests, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of problems that come up with those things as well. So even though the beta is good for just general feedback when it comes to bugs and glitches, it's not going to completely fix everything, obviously, which is okay. And when it comes to gameplay feedback, there was some gameplay related feedback that I saw people giving, especially when it comes to salvage drop rates and how the zombie AI feels. But in general, I really don't think there was a lot of feedback to give here for a few reasons. First of all, the game is very similar to Black Ops 6 Zombies, so a lot of the gameplay systems are literally just carried over into this game. So what is there really to give feedback on that we haven't already given feedback on? But even with that being said, although it is very similar to Black Ops 6, it even has a lot less content than Black Ops 6 because they didn't let us use the Black Ops 6 augments in the Black Ops 7 beta, even though the augments are going to be available at launch for Black Ops 7 Zombies. And when it comes to the beta being basically a demo for the full game as a way to market the game, I don't think it did a great job with that either, because a lot of people that were trying out the beta were genuinely disappointed with it because of how similar it is to Black Ops 6 Zombies, and the fact that the HUD wasn't original. Even though we know there's HUD themes coming because they have been leaked, it doesn't matter. The casual person who jumps into this game and is going to have no idea about these leaked HUDs, so to them it just looks like the multiplayer HUD, and they're going to be disappointed with that right off the bat. So what should Treyarch have done better in order to make this beta more worth doing? And maybe they can use this feedback to make their future betas better, because I'm sure we're going to be seeing Zombies betas down the road. Again, I'm sure Black Ops 8 is going to have a Zombies beta, for example. First things first, Augments. Like I said before, Black Ops 6's Augments should have been available right away in Black Ops 7 Zombies' beta, but when it comes to the new Augments that they're going to be adding for Black Ops 7, those should have been locked off, and those should be saved for the launch of the game. So they're still saving stuff for us to experience with the full game, but we still get to play the game the way it's going to be played at launch. It's a really strange thing to make the beta in a way where it's going to play a lot different than the full experience, because how are we supposed to actually give full feedback on the game when the way it plays, again, is going to be very different than it'll play with the full game? For example, when it comes to how much damage you deal in the later rounds, I saw a lot of people criticizing the beta for how weak the weapons were, but I really think that's probably because we don't have augments. There's quite a few augments for double tap and deadshot that increase the amount of damage you do towards the zombies quite substantially. Also, the ammo mod augments do that as well. There are so many things we're going to get to use with the full game that's going to make those later rounds a lot easier, and I feel like part of this might have been because they wanted the Black Ops 7 Zombies beta to be harder, because they wanted to avoid the situation of players playing and it being too easy and maybe then getting disinterested in it because of how easy it is. But again, that's how the game is going to be at launch. We're going to have access to all of the augments that we already earned, so why not let us experience that in the beta itself? And it also would have been really interesting to try out the new feature of being able to have 2 minor augments at a time. That is something that Black Ops 7 is now doing, and getting to try out a bunch of different combinations of minor augments together would have been a fun thing to experiment with in the beta before getting to play the full game and getting to try out all the new augments that are going to be added. No augments also gave us a very bad first impression of the new perk Wisp T, because honestly this perk isn't that great currently in Black Ops 7 Zombies, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot better with the augments. Just looking at the list of augments for this perk, I can tell it's going to be a pretty good perk with specific augment combinations, but when it comes to the base perk, it's honestly not that great, and it's really not that exciting either. So I think giving us a full week of being able to play with Wisp T and it being a very weak version of it is just not a good first impression for the perk. So I think if they weren't going to have augments in the beta, they probably should have just not given us Wisp T at all. We should have not been able to get that perk. Maybe that should have been saved for launch, but in general, I think just allowing us to get augments for our perks, the ones that were already in Black Ops 6, would have been really, really cool. And then for the new stuff like Wisp T, just give us a few of the augments to mess around with, at least to test those out. I mean, even the multiplayer beta let us play around with the new overclock system, which basically is like the multiplayer's version of augments, so I have no idea why they wouldn't let us use those in Zombies. The next thing this beta should have done is added cursed mode. So of course, for those of you who don't know, cursed mode is the classic mode of Black Ops 7 Zombies. Now, of course, a lot of people argue that it's not actually a classic mode, but it is intended to have classic mechanics, so it is going to feel more classic than the standard mode, but it is intended to be a harder experience, and it will be there at launch in Black Ops 7 Zombies. They have not confirmed if it will be playable on the survival maps though, but I think it should be. I think that would be crazy if it wasn't. And for the purpose of the beta, this mode should have been playable on Farm Survival. At the very least, they should have added it in halfway through the beta. Now, we don't know exactly how this mode is going to work right now. We know a few things about it, but we honestly don't know a lot. But I think the way it would have worked in the beta is they wouldn't let you use any relics. Of course, we're going to have to unlock the relics in the full game, but at the very least, the default version of Cursed Mode should have been playable in the beta on Farm Survival. And the only thing we know about the default version of Cursed Mode right now without relics is that it will have the classic point system, it will have no mini-map, and it will force you to start with the starting pistol. It didn't say which pistol, but it just says one of the starting pistols. Personally, I think the default version of Curse should have even more than this. I would love if it had no rarities whatsoever, and also maybe no damage scaling, just some sort of change to how the zombie AI works to make it feel more classic. I would love no armor as well, but I feel like that'll probably end up being a relic, so I would be okay with that not being something by default in this mode. But in general, just giving us the default version of Cursed Mode playable on Farm Survival would have been huge for so many reasons. First of all, it would have allowed us to give feedback on cursed mode, which would have been great because I'm really worried that cursed mode is just not going to be that good. It's going to have a lot of problems to it. Maybe it's not going to be designed in the way that it should be. Maybe it's not going to be properly balanced. And that would be a nightmare if we have to wait like 5 months to finally get cursed mode be rebalanced to the point where it's actually playable. That would be awful, but the beta would be a great place to at least test it out before launch so they can see how we feel about specific systems. I mean, getting to see what the classic point system would be like in this game would be huge. And also from a marketing perspective, it also would have been really great to have curse mode available in the beta because it would have shown people that this game is actually going to be very different than Black Ops 6 Zombies. It's not going to make people feel like, oh my god, I'm just playing Black Ops 6 2.0. It would actually show players that, oh my god, this is actually something very different. And of course, all of us here online watching videos of Call of Duty Zombies, we all know curse mode is coming, but honestly, a lot of people don't know it's coming. It hasn't been marketed that much at this point, and of course, they have another month to still market it before the launch of the game, but the beta would have been a great place to market it. It would have been a great place to show, if you guys want to play the game in a more classic feeling way, here you go, here's the mode for that. People would have eaten it up, and of course it wouldn't have all the relics just yet, but once we get the relics at launch, it would have been so much more to experiment with, especially when we get to play Cursed mode on Ashes of the Damned. But getting to see a version of Cursed on Farm Survival would have been incredible. It also would have made me play the Zombies beta a lot more because, to be honest, I didn't play a lot of the Black Ops 7 Zombies beta. I was putting most of my time into multiplayer because I really wasn't that interested to just play a survival map that feels just like Black Ops 6 Zombies. I didn't really get much out of the experience, to be honest. I thought it was okay. The map visually looked really cool. I had positive things to say about it, and there was a lot of changes made to the standard mechanics that I did like, but there wasn't much to talk about beyond that. There wasn't much to experience. So in general, I just didn't care to play it. But if they had Cursed mode, I would have been playing the shit out of that. Getting to experience the classic point system again for the first time since 2017 would have been really cool. And next up, we gotta talk about the HUD, because the HUD has been a pretty huge conversation in the Call of Duty Zombies community ever since gameplay was first shown to us at Call of Duty Next. I mean, to be honest, this conversation has been going on for a long time. Fans have been complaining about the HUDs for a while, so I was honestly very surprised that the default HUD in this game was just the multiplayer HUD. I don't understand why this is still a problem after so many years, but thankfully there are HUD themes coming. They have leaked already that there's going to be a lot of different HUD themes that you'll be able to use, and some of them are unique to Black Ops 7 Zombies, so I do think this will solve a lot of our problems with the HUDs of the recent years. But why weren't these ready in time for the beta? I'm assuming the reason they weren't in the beta is because they weren't ready, but why weren't they ready? Again, I think this is something that would have made the beta a lot better for a lot of people, because it would have been a better first impression of the game instead of just having the multiplayer HUD again. And not to be a broken record, but there's still a lot of problems with the HUD customization in Black Ops 6 Zombies that are now also in Black Ops 7 Zombies. For example, if you change your HUD in Zombies, it'll also change your HUD in multiplayer. So it's kind of frustrating the beta to have to keep changing your HUD back and forth to remove certain things that you don't want to see. And I think for people who have a problem with the Zombies HUD, at least they would have enjoyed the HUD a bit better if they were able to customize it in a way that didn't make it so they had to keep changing it back and forth between each mode. And I genuinely am at a point now where I feel like the HUD should be simpler by default, because there are so many people that are never going to even know HUD customization exists.
How can I be immersed in Zombies when 3/4 of my screen is data, colors, UI, radars, information? I can barely see the game. I'm playing World of Warcraft. This is like a fucking raid battle, man.
So many people just overlook the settings completely, and that's not really their fault. When you load into a new game that you're going to be more of a casual player in, you do not want to spend your first 10 minutes playing the game looking through the settings to try to make it look as good as it can possibly be. You don't want to be spending your time doing that, especially when you don't fully understand what every setting means. So we can't be expecting casual players to do that. I think by default, the HUD should just look better. We shouldn't have to do all this customization to make it look decent. And the last thing that I believe the beta should have done is that they should have added some new content throughout the beta. Multiplayer was doing a great job with this. There was new modes, new maps, new items in general just being added to the game throughout the beta, so it kept feeling fresh. Zombies basically gave you everything that the mode was going to have available day one, except for a few items. I think Ether Shroud wasn't available till later because it was locked behind a specific level that wasn't unlocked until a few days into the beta, but Ether Shroud isn't anything new anyways, so it's not like it's some new special thing to unlock. It's just something you already used in Black Ops 6 Zombies. So I think they should have given us access to a few new items that we could have messed around with throughout the beta. Like maybe they could have added a few more score streaks into the crafting bench. And of course, I'm not a huge fan of how score streaks work in modern Zombies, but they're gonna have have them for the launch of the game anyways, so why not let us try them out in the beta? I heard some leaks that the dog kill streak and the VTOL for multiplayer are going to be available in Zombies, so those could have been available in the beta, and I would have been cool with that. I mean, I personally, like I said, want them to change how these score streaks work in Zombies, but if they're going to be there anyways, you might as well give us access to them in the beta to at least try them out and see what they play like. But overall, I'm not mad at all that they tried this Zombies beta, and in fact, I think it was pretty cool of them to try it out for the first time, but I think it's important to give this feedback so whenever they do it again in the future, they will be better prepared to actually make it feel worth it as a beta, because I do feel like this Zombies beta didn't really do a lot for me. I kid you not, I probably played less than 10 hours of the Zombies beta, whereas I probably played over 30 to 40 hours of the multiplayer side of this beta. If you look at my recent live streams, I was consistently live streaming the multiplayer beta stuff, but I just didn't care to do anything else for Zombies because there really wasn't anything to do. And again, I understand it's a survival map, it's not the full game, and it shouldn't be the full game. I don't want access to Ashes of the Damned in the beta, but there are quite a few things they could have done to make Zombies more replayable in the beta to allow us to get a better feel as to what the game is actually going to be like at day one with Black Ops 7 Zombies. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace out, everyone.